Morant with a running start. Elevate! Oh, it dunks! Oh, my goodness!
Tie game in overtime. Gasol will turn his heat. It's gone! Memphis on top. 7-10 remaining. Conley now with three. Count it! A 15-point lead for Memphis. And Blake Griffin gets into it on the floor with Randolph. Hard to tell if there are any punches being thrown under there, but Griffin took acceptance.
Adams going long. Morant! He hit it! John Morant! Insanity!
You gotta be kidding me.
Welcome to Grits and Grinds, a Memphis Grizzlies podcast. Grizzlies win edition. My name is Keith Parrish. The Grizzlies advanced to the Summer League championship game by holding on against the Los Angeles Clippers. Jaylen Wells had a monster game. Scotty Pippen Jr. got the rare Summer League triple-double. Gigi Jackson kept showing flashes of being perhaps a future All-Star. On today's episode, I will talk about the semifinals victory over the Clippers. I will also talk a little bit more about the Ziaire Williams trade that went down last Friday. Before we get into it, just a word from SeatGeek. SeatGeek is a ticketing app that takes the confusion out of buying tickets. With their easy-to-use, color-coded seat map, you always know when you're getting a great deal. Plus, if you're a first-time user, you can use my promo code FASTBREAKBREAK, and SeatGeek will give you $20 off your ticket purchase. So if you're looking for tickets to anything, try out SeatGeek. Use that promo code FASTBREAKBREAK. All right, the Grizzlies advanced to the Summer League championship game for the first time since 2019. Of course, they won the Vegas Summer League Championship in 2019 behind MVP Brandon Clark. Also, John Conchar was on that team. Bruno Caboclo, Dusty Hannas, some other guys. I don't remember exactly who started. But the Grizzlies will face the Miami Heat on Monday in Las Vegas, trying to get the victory. The Grizzlies did this despite not having Zach Edey, who was in fact shut down for the rest of Summer League after twisting his ankle on Friday. Also, no Jake LaRavia. Jake LaRavia out with the sore ankle/knee, whatever's going on with his leg. But not having those guys, it did not matter because Jaylen Wells, Scotty Pippen Jr., and Gigi Jackson had huge games. Let's start with Jaylen Wells, who played the best Summer League game of his young career. He, if you remember, made the game winner in the team's second game in Salt Lake City. In that game, he scored a lot. He also shot the ball a lot. This one, though, this one was a straight-up heater. He was on fire the entire game. He scores 28 points. He accomplishes that on just 12 field goal attempts. Made 6 out of 7 three-pointers. Was 4 for 4 from the foul line. 28 points, 3 rebounds, 2 assists, and a steal. This was more points than he scored in any game at Washington State last year. His game high last season was 27. This is more three-pointers than he made in all of Vegas Summer League combined before this game. If you want to go back to Salt Lake City, coming into this game, Jaylen was 8 for 31 on three-pointers. Knocks down 6 out of 7 in this one. Raises his Summer League three-point percentage from 26% to 37%. That's the beauty of a small sample size. He was absolutely amazing in this one, showing that sweet shooting touch that is the reason the Grizzlies drafted him. He made some big shots in the second half as the Grizzlies put together a 13-0 run to finally take the lead from the Clippers. This was a game where the Clippers were tough and the Grizzlies had difficulty stopping them. They had Jordan Miller, who was a second-round pick, much like Gigi Jackson. Jordan Miller's been scoring a ton in every Summer League game. He came into this game averaging 25 points per game in Summer League. He scored 28 in this one despite battling foul trouble and despite actually fouling out. The Clippers might have won this game if Jordan Miller hadn't fouled out. I mean, as it was, it came down to the final seconds, was a 1-point game. But Jordan Miller, the Grizzlies could not stop him. The Grizzlies also had difficulty stopping Kobe Brown. Kobe Brown was kind of abusing our big guys. I mean, Kobe Brown, despite missing the clutch free throw that would have tied the game with a second left, Kobe Brown had 17 points, 4 assists. He made 6 out of his 7 field goal attempts. The Clippers starters shot a remarkable percentage. Unfortunately, their bench was horrific. The Clippers starters combined to shoot 30 for 49. That's 61%. Unfortunately, their bench was just 4 out of 20 from the field. I mean, Jordan Miller made 4 out of 5 3-pointers. Cam Christie made 6 out of 11 3-pointers. Both teams shot the 3-pointer really, really well in this one. The Clippers finished the game 13 out of 27 on threes, but the Grizzlies were better. 14 for 28, the 3-point shot finally falling for the Grizzlies. In the first half, both teams shot really well. Also, the 3-point shooting at halftime. The Clippers were 8 of 15 for threes in the first half. Grizzlies 7 out of 12. So the Clippers get great 3-point shooting from Jordan Miller and from Cam Christie. The Grizzlies, some other guys hit shots, but it was mainly Jaylen Wells being absolutely on fire. I mean, Gigi hit some big ones, but he was 4 out of 12. Some high volume for Gigi Jackson. Scotty Pippen Jr., who hadn't been shooting the 3-ball very well, he did make 3 3-pointers as part of a 23-point triple-double. I believe they said this was just the 7th triple-double in Vegas Summer League history. He's the first player to get a triple-double since Lonzo Ball. Scotty came up huge in this one. Also drew that 6th foul on Jordan Miller. Beyond the 2 steals that Scottie Pippen got, he also forced at least 3 offensive fouls. He's been doing that all of Summer League. Like, I remember specifically 3 offensive fouls that he drew. Those are turnovers forced by Scottie Pippen Jr. They don't even count as steals. Scottie Pippen Jr. keeps, I would say, manipulating the referees into getting some of these calls, but also he's just getting in the right position to take the call, to take the offensive foul like he did against Jordan Miller on a play that was challenged as the Clippers tried to keep Jordan Miller in the game. Pippen has been very, very good. He also came up big in the clutch. Now, I will say, despite Scottie Pippen Jr. being awesome all of Summer League, and despite the fact that I've been adamantly saying he's been the Grizzlies' best player, I feel like he should be Summer League MVP. Because I've already said all those things on other episodes, I feel comfortable saying, like, this was not Scotty's best game. Despite coming up big at times at the end, I mean, he hit the go-ahead 3-point play. You know, like, that was obviously a clutch play. He fouls Jordan Miller out by taking the contact to his face. But also, Scottie Pippen Jr. struggled for a lot of this game. Scottie Pippen Jr. missed a ton of makeable shots in the paint. His finishing was very bad in this game. He made mental mistakes where, to me, it seemed like he did not know time and score. He threw the ball to Deke Giroux with just a couple seconds left on the shot clock when I thought Scottie Pippen should have taken kind of an open 18-footer in the final couple minutes. So, like, yeah, it's been a fantastic Summer League for Scottie Pippen Jr. He has proven that he's likely deserving of a main roster contract somewhere, maybe on the Grizzlies. He had 23 points, 10 rebounds, 10 assists. He made a big 3 with like 2.5 minutes to go. He stepped up again with the game-winning shot, but also when we get really picky about what this guy is doing against not NBA competition, which is I think what we're supposed to do, I think we need to point out this actually was not his best game. This was maybe one of his worst games, which again, feels funny to say when he had 23 points, 10 rebounds, and 10 assists, but with the number of shots he missed that were very makeable shots, I thought that was not maybe the most promising thing to see from him. And again, I thought some of the decision-making down the stretch wasn't ideal. He finished with 3 turnovers. Again, not a big deal. Again, I am going to continue to argue that he should be Summer League MVP if the Grizzlies win on Monday night. But I will, in fact, point out that, like, this was not his best stuff. The finishing was concerning because I feel like when you go to the NBA level, that's going to continually be a big question mark for Scottie Pippen Jr. And also in the regular season in the NBA, he's not going to get these calls. I did like how in the semifinals, you actually could possibly foul out. You had to worry about fouls. That's what we saw with Jordan Miller fouling out with 6 fouls. It's no longer 10 fouls to foul out. Like, Scottie Pippen Jr. had been abusing the rules a little bit by knowing he had the leeway of 10 fouls and being ultra aggressive. He actually didn't play that many minutes. I mean, he played 33 out of the 40 minutes, but he actually sat out a little bit because of foul trouble. So I liked that. It seemed more realistic. And I'm not down on Scotty Pippen. Some of the time when I point out a thing that's not wholeheartedly positive, you guys get on me. But like, it wasn't his best game. There's still some things he could definitely tighten up. Now, speaking of playing time, by the way, shout out Jason March and the coaching staff for riding their guys with some heavy minutes. This is not always what we see with this Grizzlies organization. Like Scotty played 33 out of 40 minutes because he was in foul trouble. G.G. Jackson played 37 minutes. Jaylen Wells played 39 minutes of the 40-minute game. Off the bench, the only guy who played significant minutes was Ziaire Miller. And by the way, Ziaire Miller made a big impact on the game in his 20 minutes. He picked up 3 more steals. Also, he knocked out a corner 3 in the first half when he was open. That's big for him. He did a good job of attacking the defense. There was the play where he drove in. He pushed it off of I can't remember if it was a turnover or a rebound, but he pushed it, got the defense to collapse on him. He throws it to G.G. Jackson for a wide open corner 3, one of G.G. Jackson's 3-point makes. So Ziaire Miller played 20 minutes, but then like Pember played 7 minutes, scored 4 points, got 2 assists. Timmy Allen played 8 minutes, had 1 steal and 2 points. Now, G.G. Jackson keeps showing just some spectacular moves. The finishing and the shot making from G.G., it's these flashes. The array of moves he's made over this last several games has been absolutely impressive. Now, this was not, again, G.G.'s best game. He had 20 points. He had 4 assists, which is really nice to see on the heels of his 6-assist game against the Pelicans. But he had 6 turnovers, and he's still not being efficient. 19 field goal attempts. Of all the players in Summer League who have played 5 games, G.G. has taken the most shots. He's averaging 18 field goal attempts per game. The Grizzlies sort of did a good job taking care of the basketball, and honestly, in the second half, they did a very fine job. In the third quarter, where they took the lead, they only had 1 turnover. Meanwhile, the Clippers had 8. So they finished with 14 turnovers for the game, 6 by G.G., 3 by Scotty Pippen Jr. So that's the majority of the turnovers. But we don't get that worried about maybe the shooting numbers in Summer League. Field goal percentage, honestly, it isn't a big deal for Summer League. What we can get excited about are those all-star flashes that G.G. has shown. The Euro steps, the buckets in the lane, the finishing where he's dribbling past a guy using his size and strength to rise up in the paint. Also, his catch and shoot 3-pointers when his body is perfectly squared up. Those have been really, really good. So I have been really excited the way G.G. has played. I mean, also, if we want to continue to nitpick like we did with Scotty Pippen Jr., a couple of the turnovers were horrible. Also, he committed a foul with 1.7 seconds left. I guess that's good. Like maybe Kobe Brown was going to score the bucket there to tie the game, but it seemed like maybe it wasn't the best defense by G.G. He did get some deflections in this game. He got a blocked shot. Oh, also, Jason March got so mad at G.G. that he called a timeout where G.G. took a step back shot where he was heavily covered, and then the Clippers got a run-out dunk right after that, and Jason March called an immediate timeout, and it had just come off of a break, so it was very noticeable. I don't know what exactly G.G. did that was wrong. I mean, I don't know if it was the shot. I feel like the shot clock was running down or just not getting back, but whatever happened, Jason March was very upset at the team and possibly G.G. Jackson for that play. So there are still things to fix among G.G., but as a 19-year-old who's been the youngest guy in every game the Grizzlies have played so far, G.G. has put together some just spectacular finishes in this game. I mean, I call them grown-up moves. And seeing that array of moves and shots from G.G. at 19 makes this, I think, a pretty encouraging summer league, despite the fact he's only making 40% of his shots in Vegas. His 3-point numbers for Las Vegas, he's shooting 34% on very high volume. If you include Salt Lake City, the 2 games where he didn't have the best shooting numbers, his 3-point percentage drops down to 29.5%. But The Grizzlies won this, and again, they're playing a pretty solid team, a team that had also won all of its games. It was because of, I'll call it the big three of Gigi, Scotty Pippen, and Jaylen Wells. The other two starters in this game were Ziaire and Trey Jemison. Dickey, he struggled offensively in this one, made just 1 out of 8 field goal attempts, had 3 points, 4 assists, and 4 rebounds, a steal, and a block. A lot of his field goal attempts, though, it felt like were kind of shot clock grenades. The Grizzlies offense not the most beautiful in this one, and he ended up with the ball in his hands at the end of the shot clock, and he's not good at that. Now, Trey, I thought Trey had kind of a bad game for him. He had 7 rebounds, 4 of them offensive. He continues to do a good job on the offensive glass, had 10 points, 2 steals, and a block, but he missed some plays on the inside. His free throw shooting has not been good so far. There was a stretch in the fourth quarter where Trey, he got fouled on a dunk, but he should have finished the dunk. He's big enough, he's strong enough where when the defender's on his back, he has to finish that dunk. And he's a bad free throw shooter, so like he needs to be able to finish dunks when there are players behind him, when there's no one in front of him. So he got fouled. He didn't finish the dunk. I thought that was disappointing. Then he misses the first free throw, commits a lane violation on the second free throw. Although, rewatching it, I don't think it was a lane violation. I think the ball hit the rim before he came in. But anyways, he missed both those free throws. And then on the other end, on the defensive end, he gave up an offensive rebound where it seemed like he was in the right position to get the defensive board, and the Clippers player stole it from him. So overall, I think it was an underwhelming game from Trey. And this, again, just when you use the prism of trying to imagine how it's going to work in the NBA. And Trey, I think, has been the superior player in almost all of the Grizzlies games so far. As far as the front court matchups, they have not faced a lot of NBA talent as far as big guys. I mean, Kobe Brown had a good game. Trey did not really shut him down. That guy's tough to guard. He can handle the ball pretty well for a big man. But like, there haven't been that many NBA level guys that Trey has gone against. He's going to get a challenge in the championship game going against Khalil Ware. Now, maybe you'd say like Yves Missy was similar because Yves Missy also a first round pick this year. Ware has been awesome in Summer League. Trey should have a big strength advantage there. Maybe he can push him around, but the skill advantage is going to go to Khalil. So that's a challenging matchup, and I'll be watching that very closely to see how Trey does. We know Trey is going to look fine in a Summer League setting. He's a little bit older, and he's incredibly strong and physical. So how is that going to work when he plays slightly better talent? That's the question mark for the Grizzlies, and whether or not they keep him on a two-way. You remember last year when they signed him to that 2-year two-way, it was a signing of need. They specifically needed a big. They'd moved on from Bismack Biyombo. They traded away Steven Adams, who wasn't playing, of course, but then also traded away Xavier Tillman. They had to get a big, and so they combed the G League for the best center, and that's how they ended up with Trey Jemison. So are they going to stick with him this coming season? It's possible. Maybe he's the best option for the Grizzlies on a two-way, but I'll be interested to see what he does against Khalil Ware and if he does remain the guy for the Grizzlies as the big on that two-way spot. And with that, I think we've gone over basically everything from this game. We talked about every player who played in it. I got extremely picky about Scottie Pippen Jr.'s triple-double. Let's take a quick break and let's go over just a few more thoughts about the Ziaire Williams trade now that we've had a whole weekend to let it settle in our minds. Underdog Fantasy is a unique fantasy gaming experience where you can play fantasy sports for cash. You can do daily fantasy. You can play daily fantasy against your friends in a private draft. You can do best ball. You can do hires or lowers and see your winnings really add up. Also, if you sign up for Underdog Fantasy using my promo code FBBF, Underdog will match your opening deposit up to $250. Plus, they will give you a free bonus pick. So if you want to play fantasy sports for cash, try out Underdog Fantasy and use my promo code FBBF. And again, they will match your opening deposit up to $250 plus give you a free bonus pick. All right, it has been a few days since the Grizzlies salary dumped Ziaire Williams to the Brooklyn Nets. Somewhat interestingly, the Grizzlies have not signed Luke Kennard yet. We kind of thought those things were hand in hand. Those things have not occurred. I released my immediate reactions in an episode on Friday. My reactions have not changed very much. Basically, the cliff notes of my reaction was, yeah, we thought this was coming. And yeah, I'm a little bit disappointed, not because we lost Ziaire Williams, but I dreamed of more this offseason than just keeping Luke Kennard and dodging the luxury tax. I thought we had a path to add multiple players. I thought there was a path to maybe bring in a veteran free agent. I mean, I said this all along, and I continue to maintain everyone else who covers the Grizzlies said the same thing for the summer. They wanted to bring in a starting level player or someone who could at least be in your rotation in addition to the 9th pick. So in the draft or through free agency or a trade, you'd bring in a starting center and then another player to further complement the rotation and complement the pieces you have right now. The Grizzlies did not do that. They drafted Zach Edey. We're all excited about that. They drafted Jaylen Wells, and Jaylen Wells, again, monster game against the Clippers in the Summer League semifinals, looking very, very good. But we still wanted to bring in a proven NBA player to boost the bench. And then other people, including myself, dreamed of like a bigger swing where we traded to bring in someone who could possibly start or at least be a fill-in starter, someone who could slot into your top 7 or your top 8 in your rotation. And the Grizzlies haven't done that. And I said in multiple episodes before the draft, in my mind, the nightmare scenario for the Grizzlies was they declined Luke Kennard's player option. Then they just re-signed him. They drafted some guys and called it a day. They dodged the luxury tax. They go their 3rd straight season without using the MLE. And they just build through the draft and they hope on internal development to improve. And when I said it before the draft, I feel like everyone agreed with me. At the very least, I felt no negative pushback to me laying that out as my quote-unquote doomsday scenario. I'm a little bit burned as a longtime Grizzlies fan, being concerned that the team just doesn't spend money, that they go out of their way not to spend luxury tax. They have paid luxury tax before, and they did it during the years they were pretty good. So maybe they are still waiting for the proper time to pay the luxury tax. But this move for Ziaire Williams, it gets rid of one of your tradable salaries. That's one issue for me. When you're operating over the cap in the NBA, one of the big things you do is you hold on to your salaries so you can use them for something else at some point. That's why the Suns are re-signing all their players, even though they're in the second apron. They're re-signing Josh Okogie. They're re-signing Royce O'Neal. They're re-signing Grayson Allen, not just because they want those guys around, because if they lose them, they can't replace them. And one of the reasons I kind of had a pipe dream that the Grizzlies would maybe pick up Luke Kennard's option and also keep around Ziaire Williams and John Conchar is you could add those salaries together and trade them for something else. And now you can't. Like, that has passed. The opportunity to do that has passed. Once you go under the cap or out of the luxury tax and you lose a player, you can't just replace that player in that salary slot. So losing that optionality for a big trade is one reason I'm not that excited. Also, again, maybe it's my PTSD of feeling that the Grizzlies have taken a cheap way out. Again, maybe they are not. They could still salvage this offseason for me by, like, what if they traded John Conchar for a center? All right. Then all of a sudden, everything makes way more sense. What if they trade John Conchar for another useful player? Okay, it's starting to look better. But, like, the one thing that I'm still not okay with, that I've tried to get myself into the front office's mindset, where I'm trying to understand the move from a purely basketball reason, from competitive reasons, is the idea of, like, all right, maybe it is super important not to pay the luxury tax. I had so many people responding, we don't want to be a repeater tax team, which I would like to clarify one more time for everyone, just so we're clear here. There are no penalties to your team as far as, like, moves you can make. There are no competitive disadvantages to being in the repeater tax. The CBA created the first apron and the second apron that actually does give you restrictions on the kinds of moves you can make. They did that so fans would be like, oh, I don't want my owner to pay a lot of tax because the second apron is bad. Like, all right, I understand they've set us up to want our teams not to be in the first apron or the second apron, but the repeater tax is not that. There are no restrictions for being in the repeater tax. This is purely money ownership has to pay. That's all it is. But still, let's imagine being the repeater tax is bad. let's say we went into the tax this year. You asked me, like, for who? Well, for who, I tell you, I've spent 2 months podcasting about it. Feel free to look those episodes up. But let's say you wanted to dodge the tax this year, or let's say we went into the tax. My thing I maintain still is the luxury tax line next year goes up to $187 million. You could probably dodge the tax next year if you absolutely had to. So, like, you could pay tax this year, then you wouldn't be in it next year. And then everyone says, well, what about 26, 27 when Jaren Jackson Jr. is a free agent? Okay, if the Grizzlies re-sign Jaren Jackson Jr. to a 30% max, we're talking a 5-year, $300 million deal. 30% of the cap in 26-27 is about $51 million. If we do that, Ja, Jaren, and Dez all combined will make, it looks like, around $133 million. That will be around 78% of the salary cap. That's a lot. But guess what? You still have another $45 million before you get to the luxury tax. That's very manageable. You still have Gigi Jackson and Vince Williams Jr. on those super cheap deals that year. You could dodge the tax that year even with retaining Jaren. So many people have responded to me saying, we're absolutely going to be a tax team if we re-sign Jaren. No, we're not. I would like us to be, because that means we're being competitive with the rest of the roster. But if they want to dodge the tax, they can. But let's even still say, let's admit, all right, it's possible. What if we opt out Gigi and Vince from their cheap contracts so we can give them a bigger contract to retain them for longer? Okay. If all that happens, it's possible we'd go into the tax that year. So let's say 26, 27, that is a tax year. Okay, that's one. Or if we're operating under my fake world where we went into the tax this year, that's now 2 seasons. I still feel like you could get out of it the next year, because once again, the cap goes up 10% again. The cap, or the luxury tax line, the year after that, this is now 27, 28, we're talking $227 million. With the rising cap, it isn't going to be that hard in my mind to dodge the luxury tax if that's a mandate from ownership. We're not going to be a repeater tax team. But even if the Grizzlies went into the tax all of those years, we're not talking about a penalty like your draft picks are frozen or you can't aggregate salaries. No, those are second apron penalties. We're just talking about a check the team has to write to the league to pay luxury tax. So because of that, I end up being a little disappointed with the return of the trade. Now, things could still happen. And like, maybe I didn't give enough thought to the idea of adding Scotty Pippen Jr. to the open roster spot. Like, I assume Diakite is getting waived. If they waive him, the Grizzlies will be about $18 million from the first apron, according to Spot Track, and about $10 million from the luxury tax line. So let's assume he's waived. Let's assume we have 2 roster spots and one's going to Luke Kennard, although I still don't know why that hasn't happened. One of the reasons I still wasn't that excited about those moves is there's still a roster imbalance to me. There's just too many guards. Like, before all this happened, my thought on Luke Kennard returning was like, yes, we need the shooting, but also we have a lot of guards who are really, really good. We have Ja Morant, Desmond Bane, Marcus Smart. We have Vince Williams Jr. Like, that's a lot of the minutes that are going to be taken right there. If Luke Kennard returns, great. But maybe I didn't give enough thought to using the extra roster spot. If they waive Diakite, they could be used on Scotty Pippen Jr. and locking him down on a team-friendly contract, something like the contract that Vince Williams Jr. and Gigi Jackson are on right now. Maybe that is the best use of resources. Maybe locking up that asset makes a ton of sense. But if we're still operating in the world where Luke Kennard comes back, I don't know if that's, again, the best use of your resources, because now your roster is still extremely imbalanced. If you theoretically have Ja Morant, Marcus Smart, Desmond Bane, Luke Kennard, Derrick Rose, Vince Williams Jr., you also need Scotty Pippen Jr. on the regular roster. And then what if you include like John Conchar and Cam Spencer in this conversation? That's 8, or is that 9? I lost count. That's a lot of players who are 6'5" or shorter to have on an NBA team. So I don't know. I mean, if you did lock up Scottie Pippen, maybe that becomes a tradable asset. Maybe that becomes the backup point guard you need to have because Derrick Rose is just here for locker room leadership. And then that would free up a two-way spot where you could go find another prospect. I mean, maybe you find another big prospect. I've been really into Jay Huff this big guy playing for the Magic. Like, he seems pretty good. But, like, maybe there's just, I mean, there obviously are a ton of other guys that the Grizzlies front office is super interested in. So if you put Scotty Pippen Jr. on the regular roster, then you could lock up maybe your backup point guard for the next few seasons at a very cheap number, and you could use a two-way spot on somebody else to develop. I mean, all those are fine options going forward, and the team is going to be really good if everybody's healthy. It just makes me nervous that we're trying to walk this tightrope of being like a Moneyball team and not just saying, hey, you realize the mid-level exception and even the taxpayer mid-level exception, these are resources that good teams use to bring in extra players to further bolster their squad, and we're just electing not to use those. And maybe, again, maybe we will at some point. Maybe there'll be a big trade at some point. So it's just it's an incomplete grade as of now. I think Ziaire has a great opportunity in Brooklyn. He should be able to get some playing time there. And, maybe he actually flourishes. I don't really think he's that good, but he's still so young. Maybe he does. But, like, I like that the roster has been cleared up, that we have, like, clear cut. Listen, G.G. Jackson's going to play. Vince Williams Jr. is going to play. We no longer have this glut of wings. We got rid of David Roddy. We got rid of Ziaire Williams. That was a goal. But also specifically my goal was not just to get rid of those guys. People always said a consolidation trade. Let's combine some of these salaries and bring back one better player. We have not done that. You cannot argue to me that we have done that. We've gotten rid of them. That was step one. Where's the other better player coming back? Don't say Jaylen Wells. Jaylen Wells was a draft pick. We already had Jaylen Wells. We drafted him. It's great. But, like, where's the better player that we're bringing back in? So far, that part of the equation hasn't happened, in my opinion. Maybe there still could be a move. We have all the offseason to go. We have up until the trade deadline to make this team the best it can be. And if they are doing the wait and see approach, that's fine. Just don't tell me to be excited about the move we've made so far just because it's like we didn't start the repeater tax clock. That doesn't get me that excited. But anyways, I was just trying to be clear about my thoughts. I don't know how many people listen to every single episode, so I thought I'd go back over some of that stuff. Summer League Final is tonight. They're playing the Miami Heat. There's a Josh Christopher revenge game aspect. Remember, we got Josh Christopher from the Rockets in the Dylan Brooks trade. Last summer, I was putting Josh Christopher highlights in my Grits and Grinds episodes, but Josh Christopher was waived before training camp last year. He, by the way, had one of the best heaters I saw in all of Las Vegas Summer League. He went nuts a couple of games ago for the Heat, had a massive scoring second half, had 2 posters and was making all kinds of threes. He's one of the top scorers for the Heat's Summer League team. Also, they have Alondas Williams, pretty good player playing for them. It's going to be a great challenge. Should be a fun game. Hopefully, the Grizzlies bring home that Summer League title. Anyways, appreciate all you guys who have been listening to these episodes. If you want to support the creation of these episodes, do that at patreon.com/fastbreakbreakfast. If you join my Patreon for $5 a month, you get access to an exclusive listener Slack where I'm in there with other Grizzlies fans. We have fans of all kinds of NBA teams, but there's a channel specifically for Grizzlies fans. So if you want to talk about the Grizz with me through Slack, you can do that at Patreon. You also get access to 1 bonus episode a month at minimum. Also, you can play fantasy basketball with me and other listeners when the season starts. So if you want to do that and support the creation of these episodes, do it. Patreon.com/fastbreakbreakfast. All right. Hope you guys have a great Monday. I'll talk to you soon. Go Grizz.